As we're considering Jesus Christ together in our Wonderful Day in the Lord broadcast, we're looking right now at some of his attributes. If we're going to think about Jesus, we have to think about what he's like. And so we've looked at his names, his titles. We've looked at the fact that he's the creator and the eternal God. And we're looking now at some of the attributes that he has. And we're not surprised, of course, that his attributes overlap and are identical, actually, with the attributes that we looked at when we discussed God a few weeks ago, because he is God. And if he didn't have the same attributes of God, then he would not be God. As a matter of fact, his attributes signify that he is very God of very God. So we're looking at some of those together. We're going to look at two today. One is omniscience, that he knows all things. It's interesting when he first shows up in the first chapter, John chapter 1. And he's calling disciples to himself. One of the things that they saw in Jesus was the fact that of his supernatural knowledge, that he saw things, knew things that nobody else could know. That signified to them that they were in the presence of the Messiah. Now, they had a lot to work on to understand all of that, but these were the initial encounters that Jesus had with these people. For example, John chapter 1, verse 47. Jesus saw Nathaniel coming to him, and he said of him, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" And Jesus answered and said to him, "Before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you." Nathanael answered him, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." And Jesus answered him and said to him, "Because I said to you that you were under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." What a start. Nathaniel, we don't know much about him beyond this particular account, but he was one of the original apostles, apparently a very upstanding person. And Jesus had seen him under this fig tree before Nathaniel ever showed up. And when he said that he had seen him, Nathaniel was so impressed by this that he asked Jesus questions. And when Jesus answers him, look what he says in verse 49. Rabbi, that means teacher. That's a kind of a human term. There was a lot of Jewish rabbis floating around at that time. And Jesus was considered a teacher, a rabbi by many. But he goes much further than that. You are the Son of God. What a thing to say about a man. The Son of God and the King of Israel. Wow. This is impressive when he initially meets Jesus Christ. What so impressed him? Why would he come out and say, "You are the Son of God, the King of Israel"? And the King of Israel would be a reference to being the Messiah. But the Son of God even goes beyond that. So he sees in Jesus deity, as well as being the Messiah, as well as being a rabbi. Wow. Where did he get all of that? From one encounter in which he knew that Jesus saw something supernaturally, that he was omniscient. No one could do what Jesus had just done. And as impressive as that was, Jesus said, "Wait, you haven't seen anything yet. You're going to see greater things," he says in verse 50, "than these." And he would. You would get to see Jesus performing miracles and knowing things that only God could know. And Nathaniel would have a firsthand, front row seat to see the wisdom and the knowledge and the power of Jesus Christ that demonstrated that he was truly God. Now here's another attribute of him. Before I leave that, look at chapter 2, verse 25. "And because he did not need anyone to testify concerning him, for he himself knew what was in man." Another reference to the knowledge of God, of Christ. No one needed to tell him what people were like, because he knew what was in the heart of man. What wisdom that is. We're also going to mention omnipotence. In Colossians chapter 1, verse 16, he's all powerful. "For by him all things were created, both in the heavens and on the earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. For he is before all things, and in him all things hold together." a picture of the power and the omnipotence of Christ. All things were created by him. All things are held together by him. He is before all things. He sustains all things. Only one who is almighty could do that. And only God is almighty. And Jesus Christ fits the criteria of deity. That's who our Christ is. And so we ponder that and we worship him because of who he is and his great power.